On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, 10 being you're an expert, how well do you understand your 401k? If I said that if your answer was 5 or below, guess what? You're in the majority. Most people don't know what it takes to understand what's happening in their 401k, but on today's video, we're gonna break it all down for you. Welcome back, y'all. I'm Chris Mouzon, your financial coach, financial therapist, here with another video. As always, when you're on this page on YouTube, go ahead and press that subscribe button. If this is blessing your life, if these videos and the content that we put out is helping you, please subscribe, like it, share the video with someone that you know can benefit from it. Our goal is to make sure that we can be a resource for everybody on business education and financial education. So I'm glad you're tuning in. Today's an important one though, because 65 to 70% of people that are offered a 401k at their job normally take it. But the question is, how well do we understand it? How well do you understand how the money grows, what is happening when it comes out, where it's actually sitting, all of those things? Today, we're going to do a bit of a master class, so to speak, on exactly how to dive in and find out where all your money is going. And afterwards, you can decide whether or not that is still the best place for your money. Ladies and gentlemen, just know you have options. No one said you have to put money in a 401k or 403b or 457 plan or any of those company offered plans. No one says that you're required to. They offer them to you, and there are some benefits to them, but there is no one financial vehicle that is good for everyone. There's not one. So if everyone has a job, well, everyone's not going to benefit from having a tax-deferred 401k, 403b, something along those lines. It's meant for some, and if used properly, it could be meant for many, but most are not using it properly simply because they don't really understand how it works. So let's talk about it. Couple things to know. 2 specific concepts I want you to understand is 1, how your money grows inside of there. Inside of a 401k, your money grows variably. What does that mean? That means your money is invested in the stock market. That means depending on the stocks that you own or the bonds that you own or the funds that you own, which we'll talk about, if the market goes up, you will make more money inside of there. When the market comes down, you will lose some of your money inside of there. And you will do that over the entire time period that you are in that 401k or 403b. So the money grows variably. When we really dive in to find out, well, what specific stocks and bonds do we own? What specific places is my money going? That's where people might get a little murky, because what they tell us is you're conservative, or you're moderate, or you're moderately conservative, or you're aggressive, or you're moderately aggressive. So all we have are 5 choices, but they never actually told you where the money is actually going. We're going to do that in a second. But the second concept I want you to know is how your money gets taxed inside of a 401k. So inside of a 401k, typically it's a traditional 401k is something called tax deferred. They recently started to talk a little bit more about a Roth 401k, but for today's conversation, we're going to talk about a traditional 401k, a tax-deferred 401k. So how does it get taxed? It is something we call pre-tax dollars. So for those of you that have a job, right, you're employed, think of your check, you have gross pay at the top, then they take out all of the taxes, FICA, Social Security, state tax, federal tax, they take all that out, and then it leaves you with net pay, which is what you take home, your take-home pay. So if you have a traditional 401k and you're putting money into it from the job, that money is going in from gross pay. So not from net pay after the taxes have come out. That goes in pre-tax from gross pay. So all the money that sits inside of a traditional 401k has never been taxed. That money has never been taxed. Then what happens is down the line when you get to retirement and you're ready to pull the money out or start to take some distribution for retirement, they're going to tax you at whatever the tax rate is when you're ready to pull that money out. Whatever the federal and state tax rate is and the place that you live at the time that you are pulling that money out, that is how you will get taxed on that money inside of your 401k. They add an additional rule on there called the 59.5 rule. What the 59 and a half rule says is that if you choose to touch that money before the age of 59 and a half, let's just say 60 years old, the government, the IRS, is going to hit you with a 10% penalty on top of the taxes that you owe. Sometimes this is a myth or something that people just typically maybe misunderstand inside of it, because I've sat down with plenty of people that believe that after the age of 60, there's no taxes and no penalty, like you get all the money. Well, that's not the case. The taxes never go away. Even if you're 64 and you start taking money, you're going to get taxed fully at what you have there when you're 64. But the criteria that falls off is that 59 and a half rule that says if you're over the age of 59 and a half, there's no 10% penalty. You're before the age of 59 and a half, they will assess a 10% penalty on top of the taxes. They also add another rule in there called the 72 and a half rule. It used to be 70 and a half and they moved it up or moved it back to 72 and a half because they know people need to work longer. But what it says is that if you hit age 72 and a half and you do not take any money or you haven't taken any distributions, the IRS will force you to take required minimum distribution. So that means they're going to force you to take money out of that account if you hit age 72 and have not, just so they can get their tax dollars because you haven't paid taxes on that money. So those are two concepts you got to know first and foremost when you're in your 401k to say, okay, my money is variable. It's in the stock market. I really don't have control over it outside of conservative, moderate, or aggressive. And then I get taxed on it in a pre-tax manner. So I don't pay taxes on the money right now, but down the line, when I'm ready to pull that money out, I will be taxed on that money fully. If I choose to pull it out because I lose employment before the age of 60, I'll get hit with a 10% penalty on top of the taxes. So from those two concepts, that's where we start. Now, to go down the path of, well, how do I know where my money's going and what's actually happening? Let's take a look at this.
All right, so here's what it looks like to look at a 401k statement for yourself. This is a sample 401k statement that we're going to look at, but it's going to give you the idea of what happens when you see your own 401k statement. Again, you get these quarterly. So this is what you're going to take a look at. Right here at the top, you're going to have the name of your company and what the plan is, and this is going to be your information. Over here, you want to be able to look and see what are the dates that we're looking at. So this is, again, a sample, but that's normally going to be a 3-month window: October, November, December, January, February, March, right? It's going to be a quarterly statement that you're going to get. The most important thing to pay attention to will be on the first page of this 401k statement, is right here where it says account at a glance. You're going to see the beginning balance, exactly how much you had in there to start before this quarter. So again, if this is the quarter of October 1st to December 31st, this is saying coming into October 1st, here's how much you had. Then it breaks down your contribution, so how much you contributed directly out of your paycheck, right? Remember, gross pay, money goes in there. So how much did you contribute? Then it'll tell you how much your employer contributed. So some of you say, my company matches us, which is great. And they'll tell you how much they match you up to. Well, a lot of times they might not have told you exactly what you heard, or that might not have been what's actually in writing. So here's the way to validate that. On the statement, you'll see your contribution and then the employer's contribution. So if they match you up to 6% and you put in 6%, then that means those numbers should be the same. If you put in 6% and they put in 6%, that means those numbers should be the same. If they say they match you up to 3% and you put in 6%, then that number should be half. You put in 6% worth, they put in 3% worth. But that is how you validate whether or not your company is actually matching and they're matching you the exact dollars that you think they should be matching. It'll be on your statement. Then you'll see another mark here for fees. Because yes, ladies and gentlemen, there are fees inside of all financial products. There's a fee inside of every investment product. Your bank account has fees, right? If you don't put money in or if you overdraft, this is how companies work, right? Especially in the financial space. So you're going to want to see, well, how much am I being charged in fees every time I contribute to my 401k? And then you're going to see how much did you gain versus how much did you lose? It'll tell you over that quarter. Remember, we're looking at only this quarter. How much did I make or how much did I lose because the money's variable. And then it'll have an ending balance there for you, an ending balance, which tells you at December 31st, the end of this statement, here's how much you had in there. That is the most important thing to read on your 401k statement every time you get it, because that's going to give you a snapshot of actually what has happened over the last 3 months. Where did you start? Where did you finish? How much did you contribute? How much did your job contribute? And how much did you pay in fees? Then what did the market actually do? So sometimes you'll see that money grew a bunch. Sometimes you'll see you've lost some. That is an important part. As you see on this sample one, it'll also show you some asset allocation, which I'm going to tell you is not as important if you're not fully into the financial world. That asset allocation, again, a lot of these things they put on there to kind of confuse us, but it's okay, right? So at the end of the day, you just know you don't have to pay attention to much of that. Really, this account at a glance and the time period is the basic thing that you want to understand by looking at your statement. So that is the first thing you're going to pay attention to when it comes to your statement. Then you turn to that second page, and normally the second page is going to give you a breakdown of where the money is being invested. This is the second most important thing that you should be paying attention to, and you should get very good at learning how to find this stuff out. This is where it takes a little bit of time because, in all honesty, they try to confuse you a little bit. They don't want you going down this path that I'm about to show you. So that's why they make it a little confusing and it's really murky. That's why most people don't go do this. But I'm going to show you one time exactly how to go in and find out where all of your money is going. In this example, if you look at your second page and you look at the investment activity, it's going to tell you where the money is being allocated. It's going to show you a fund, retirement funds. It's going to show you stocks. It's going to show you bonds, maybe even company stock. It's going to break it down with these names that look very confusing. It's going to tell you how much you started in there, how much came in or went out, the gains or losses, how much growth it was, and then what was left. So again, not necessarily caring too much about that because you don't really have control over these things. Once you're in a 401k, they just tell you kind of where they're going to put the money, but you don't have control over what it does. But you want to know where that money is actually going. Here's what you need to do. Each of these names of the investment is something that you can research. So we're going to do two of them. Let's look at this first one, T. Rowe Price Retire 2030 TRF. Now, if you could, you can just copy paste that exact thing into Google and then it'll pop up. T. Rowe Price 2030 TRF. Then it's going to pop up, right? Obviously, the first place, because T. Rowe Price is its own brokerage, they're going to obviously get all of the first initial results. But let's go down and let's look at something like Business Insider and see what T. Rowe Price Retirement 2030 Trust Class F actually is. And it'll show you this actual fund and what it's doing. It'll show you the price of it, but that's not really important. Here's the most important thing. You want to know where that money's going. So right here where it says asset allocation top holdings, that's really what you want to look for. Now this is on Business Insider. You could do it on many different platforms. I'll show you a couple other ones. But from that sample that we just saw, we went into Google and we looked to see, well, where's that money actually going? And if you see this pie chart here that says asset allocation, it's going to tell you where all that money's where it's going. There's a second layer to this. So when you look at it, we got the majority, well, almost half going into more T. Rowe Price funds. So let's look at this one, the one that's 15.4%. It's T. Rowe Price US Equity TRZ. Well, guess what we're going to do? We're going to take that, we're going to highlight it, we're going to copy paste it, and we're going to put it right back up into Google. We're going to find out what is this fund that 15.4% of the 25%, right? That's how much it was there. Of the 25%, how much of it went to this allocation, which is 15% of that 24%. So you go in, you click, let's scroll down. Morningstar is a great website for you to check allocations, check on your stocks, those things. So we're going to click in there, and inside of there, this is another mutual fund. There's more companies that are in here, you can go down here and click this button, portfolio. If you click the portfolio button, it's going to tell you exactly what companies are being held inside of this one little segment. Again, you want to see some names, forget all the charts. Charts are what try to confuse you. Let's get to the data. The hard data says this is where the money in that fund is being invested. Part of it is 3.5% is Berkshire Hathaway. You got JP Morgan, you got Elevance Health, Bank of America, Mondelez. And then down here, it says that's you're viewing 1 of 10 of 24. So that means inside of this, there's 24 companies that the money is being invested into in bits and pieces, in small amounts. And ladies and gentlemen, that is just 15.4% of the 25% of where your money's going. So just 15% of the 25% is going to 24 different companies already that you have no control over, that you might not even like. But that's how you find it. You go back and say, okay, well, that was part of it. Well, what about this other, let's say 15.6%? It's going to the T. Rowe Price bond, TRIT4. Sounds kind of confusing, right? Well, let's highlight it. Let's copy paste that. Let's go put that into Google. You see why most people won't do this stuff? We're just at one fund, right? Let's just recap. We're just at one fund trying to find where 25% of the money is going, and they're giving us all of these different funds that the money is in just for the 25%. So we have to individually look at every single one. This is all T. Rowe Price stuff. So maybe we have to go to TI4. All right, cool. Let's look at it. Let's see if we can get to a number and find exactly how much is going here. Click on that Market Insider for Business Insider here. It'll kind of tell you how much is sitting there. Asset allocation, top holdings. Well, inside of this one, you got bonds. 28% goes to interest-bearing bonds. More interest-bearing bonds that they don't even tell you about. You got some going to the United States Treasury notes. So this is all inside of this one. This is 95% of this is just bonds. Bonds is you lending money to the government. So lending money to the government. That's what a bond is. So that means inside of this, 15.6% going to the government on the bond side of things. If we did the same thing for the 15.3% here, T. Rowe Price stock, growth stock, TRZ. Let's find out about that one. Let's see what Google pops up. Again, we can skip T. Rowe Price. Let's go to Morningstar and see what Morningstar has about where that money's going. Click your portfolio. Under portfolio, you're going to see, again, all the charts. And then you're going to get to the data that says, these are the companies. 12%, almost 13% is in Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, which is Google, NVIDIA, Meta, right? This is your growth stocks. These are what you call your growth stocks. So they have 68 equity holdings, 68 of them inside of here, 68 inside of this one fund. And remember, this one fund is really only 15.3% of 25% of where your money's going. So we're only at 25% and we're already up to 100 and something companies that your money is going to in the stock market that you have no control over. And then we can look at where the other stocks are. So we can look at a Vanguard INST index or a Vanguard mid cap index. Let's look at one of those and see maybe where the rest of this 20% of the money is going. Let's see what pops up if we do this. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of Vanguard stuff. Let's go to Morningstar and see what Morningstar has for this one. Again, in Morningstar, you can go right to the portfolio and see exactly how much. By the way, an expense ratio is a charge. It's a fee. It's how much they charge you, right? To be able to put the money in there. So at the end of the day, there's fees all throughout this, but do you know how many fees you have? This opens up the portfolio. Again, skip all the numbers. Don't worry about that. Let's get to some hard data. So this is where part of that money's going. Tell me if you heard of any of these. JSC VTB Bank, almost 10% of it's going there. Federal Grid Company, Novo Nordisk, ASML, Nestle, Samsung, Toyota, Tencent. Small fractions of money going there. This says equity holdings, 3,000 positions inside of here. That means there's 3,000 companies in this one fund. And this one fund is 20% of where your money's going. This is how you find where every dollar is going. And once you know where all of your money is going inside of every single one of your funds, you can make a decision whether or not that's where you want to put your money.
All right. So now, after you've seen exactly how to find out where every dollar of yours is going inside of that 401k, the question is that still the proper vehicle for you? Do you still feel comfortable putting money there, knowing what you now know after watching this video? And if not, then let's have a conversation and talk about what your options could be. Down in the description below, you'll see a way to be able to connect with us, set up some time one-on-one, and we can go through this with you. I encourage you, take the time, like I said, to go through and do this for your 401k. The next statement you get or the previous statement that you had, go in and take a look and see exactly where all the money's going. What does that fund mean? What does it say inside of that fund? And then see if you're comfortable still continuing to ship your money over there. If you're not, let's talk about options. If you are, at least you're now more educated. We took you from a 5 to a 9 when it comes to your education level on your own 401k. But the reason why it's important is because it's your money. You should control it and put it in the places that are best for you and not just what most people choose to do. So I hope that was helpful for you. Again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. We are here. And again, if you like this video, go ahead and share it with somebody else that has a 401k that can benefit from it. Subscribe to the channel because we're going to continue to bring you more and more information that you need to be able to get your financial life in order, as well as getting your business life in order if needed. So until next time.